The Dominion called it the final sweep. For decades they had hunted humanity across the stars, reducing once proud colonies to ash. Earth's fleets, once a symbol of defiance, were now a collection of shattered warships barely capable of holding orbit. Humanity's last defenders were scattered, their resources exhausted, their morale broken. The war had lasted too long. Each year another system burned. Each month another fleet vanished. Each week, another planet was erased from existence. Humanity had learned to survive in shadows, building fragile alliances and relying on desperate strategies. But everyone knew it was only a matter of time. That time had finally come. The Dominion Armada gathered above Mars, the red planet glowing faintly beneath the shimmer of enemy warships. Their flagship, the Ascendant Wrath, a vessel larger than Earth's own moon bases, eclipsed the sun as it descended. It was not just an act of war, it was a declaration of dominion, a display of absolute superiority. People of Earth, the Dominion broadcasted across every channel, its alien voice cold, sharp, and dripping with contempt. You have resisted long enough. Kneel. Submit. Or watch your world burn. The broadcast repeated again and again, echoing through ruined bunkers and underground shelters, through half-functioning fleet channels, through the very hearts of men and women who knew they could not win. On the command deck of Earth's last dreadnought, Admiral Kalen stood silent. His uniform was torn, stained with soot from battles long lost. His officers barely raised their eyes. They had fought too long, too hard, only to face the inevitable. "Admiral," one officer whispered, we can't repel that fleet. Not with what we have left." Kalen nodded. He knew. The Dominion had assembled nearly their entire sector fleet for this final strike. Humanity had less than 30 ships left, most damaged, some barely able to fire. Their defenses around Earth had been reduced to broken stations and jury-rigged cannons. The end was here. The Dominion fleet shifted into formation, preparing to unleash a barrage that would scorch Mars and then turn its wrath on Earth itself. Kalen drew in a slow breath, trying to summon words of courage, but none came. What could he say? That humanity would fight until the end? That they would go down as martyrs? He had spoken those words too many times before. The officer at the sensor station suddenly froze. His voice cracked when he spoke. "Sir, something just appeared on our long-range scans." Kalen turned sharply. "Enemy reinforcements?" The officer shook his head, pale. "No, Admiral. It's nothing I've ever seen before." The tactical screen flickered, displaying a massive distortion at the edge of the battlefield. At first, it looked like a tear in space, a rippling shadow that defied recognition. Then, slowly, impossibly, the distortion peeled back, revealing a ship. It was enormous, larger than the Dominion flagship, its hull blackened and scarred with wounds from wars untold. Its surface shifted strangely as though layers of armor moved like living plates. Symbols glowed faintly along its flanks, runes no human language could interpret. The vessel made no attempt to mask its arrival. It simply decloaked, as though daring the galaxy to behold its presence. The Dominion fleet halted. Even their disciplined formation faltered at the sight of this unknown leviathan. Their comms crackled with alien voices filled with unease. Kalen felt his breath catch. What is that? No record in human archives matched the design. No Alliance fleet had ever fielded such a warship. It was not Terran, not Dominion. It was something else. Something older. Something far beyond their reckoning. Before anyone could act, the ship moved. Energy flared across its surface, humming with a resonance that rattled even the human dreadnought systems. Then, without warning, it fired. One single beam lanced out, brighter than a star. It struck the Ascendant Wrath square in the heart. In an instant, the Dominion flagship, an invincible symbol of their rule, was reduced to fragments of molten metal, scattered across the void. The explosion lit up the skies of Mars, a second sunrise in the crimson dust. Silence followed. The Dominion Armada hesitated, their confidence shattered in one impossible moment. The unknown ship fired again, this time unleashing a wave of energy that swept across the nearest enemy flotilla. Entire squadrons of battleships crumbled, shields shattered, hulls torn apart like paper. In less than a minute, what had been an unstoppable fleet became wreckage drifting helplessly in orbit. On Earth's dreadnought, the bridge crew sat frozen, unable to comprehend what they were witnessing. "Admiral," the sensor officer whispered, his voice trembling. "It's fighting for us." Kalen's eyes remained locked on the impossible vessel. For humanity. But why? Who commanded such a ship? No human technology could explain it. No record spoke of such power. The Dominion, shaken and terrified, began to retreat. Their remaining ships scattered into faster-than-light jumps, abandoning their assault entirely. The war they had fought for decades, the war humanity had nearly lost, was broken in less than 10 minutes. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the unknown ship turned. It drifted toward Earth's fleet, silent, unhurried. Every alarm aboard the dreadnought blared, warning of its approach. Humanity's last defenders raised their weapons instinctively, though they knew it would make no difference. The vessel halted. No weapons fired. Instead, a signal cut through every human channel. A voice spoke. It was not alien, not Dominion. It was human. Children of Earth, the voice said, low, resonant, and commanding. You are not alone. Shock rippled across the bridge. Officers stared at one another in disbelief. Kalen leaned forward, gripping the console. Who are you? He demanded. There was a long silence. Then the voice replied. A guardian. One forgotten. One waiting. The calm cut off. The massive ship lingered only a moment longer, its shadow cast across the scarred remnants of humanity's fleet. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it cloaked, vanishing back into the void. Silence remained. The Dominion had fled. Humanity had survived. But Admiral Kalen knew the truth. They had not been saved by luck or strategy or defiance. They had been saved by something else. Something hidden, something ancient, something that had chosen this moment to intervene. The galaxy would whisper of the event for centuries to come. Of the Dominion's crushing defeat. Of the impossible vessel that appeared from nowhere. And humanity, battered and broken though it was, would never forget the day. The day the silent guardian returned. The stars had grown dim for humanity. One by one the colonies fell, Titan, Europa, Proxima, and finally New Avalon. Each had once been a proud beacon of human expansion, carved out from the void through grit and sacrifice. Now they were nothing but cinders, their atmospheres burned away by alien war fleets, their survivors enslaved or slaughtered. The invaders, the Ver Dominion, had judged humanity weak, a primitive species that dared rise too quickly. And now Earth itself stood cornered. What remained of the Resistance fleet circled the homeworld like a dying heartbeat, scarred frigates, crippled destroyers, and a handful of outdated dreadnoughts whose hulls bore more patchwork repairs than armor. They were not warriors anymore, they were survivors bracing for the final blow. The Dominion armada approached with cold precision. Hundreds of warships, sleek and gleaming, surrounded Earth from every vector. Their leader broadcasted the same ultimatum that had preceded every massacre. Surrender. Submit to our Dominion. Or watch your cradle burn. On Earth, billions huddled in shelters and bunkers. In orbit, Admiral Lyra Vance stood aboard the battered dreadnought Solstice. She had seen too many battles, too many defeats. Her jaw was set, her hands clasped behind her back, but her eyes betrayed the weight of hopelessness. We can't repel them, her tactical officer whispered. Not with what we have left. Lyra didn't answer. She knew. Everyone knew. The Dominion's fleet outnumbered them 20-1. Humanity's last stand would be brave but futile. Then we'll make them bleed, Lyra finally said, her voice steady. We'll make them remember humanity's fire, even if we burn with it. The fleet adjusted, forming a fragile line before Earth. The Dominion advanced. Weapons charged. The final battle began. But before the Dominion could unleash their fire, the void itself rippled. At the far edge of the solar system, near the orbit of Pluto, a distortion appeared. Space twisted, warping as though reality itself had been pulled aside like a curtain. A shape emerged, vast, jagged, and alive with energies no one could comprehend. The bridge of the solstice fell silent. What is that? Whispered the communications officer. It was a ship, colossal in scale. Its hull was forged of dark alloys, scarred with burns that spoke of ancient wars. Patterns of light coursed across its frame, glowing like veins of molten fire. Weapons bristled from its surface, many of them of designs no human or alien had ever recorded. The vessel dwarfed even the Dominion's largest capital ships, and yet it moved with the precision of a predator. The Dominion fleet halted. Even their disciplined formations broke apart, whispers of unease spreading through their calm channels. On Earth's fleet, stunned silence gave way to disbelief. Lyra's eyes narrowed as recognition stirred at the edge of memory. The design, though alien in scale, was not entirely unfamiliar. She turned to her AI officer. Run cross-reference with archive blueprints. Project Aegis. The AI hesitated. Admiral, those files are classified, but, yes. There is a 72% structural match. Lyra's breath caught. Project Aegis. It had been a myth, whispered among officers for centuries. A superweapon conceived during humanity's first wars among the stars. The greatest minds of the early colonies had pooled their knowledge to design a warship that would safeguard humanity for all time. But the project had collapsed, too costly, too ambitious. Records claimed it had been abandoned before construction was finished. But what if it hadn't been abandoned? What if it had been hidden? As if answering her unspoken question, the giant ship activated. Its surface shimmered as countless weapons came online. Then, across every human channel, a signal cut through the static. The voice was calm, resonant, unmistakably human. For humanity's survival, I return. The bridge froze. Lyra's heart pounded. Whoever commanded this ship, whatever intelligence guided it, it was on their side. The Dominion reacted first, rallying their fleet and unleashing a barrage of plasma and kinetic fire. The unknown vessel did not flinch. Its shields absorbed the onslaught like ripples across water. Then, with a single flash, it struck back. A beam of light, impossibly bright, lanced across space. Entire Dominion squadrons disintegrated, their warships cut apart as though sliced by a blade of fire. Another wave followed, torpedoes unlike anything seen before, swarming with guided precision, detonating across enemy lines. The Dominion armada faltered, their once perfect formation reduced to chaos. On the solstice, the crew watched in stunned awe as the unknown vessel carved through the enemy fleet with surgical precision. "My God," the tactical officer whispered. "It's unstoppable." The Dominion tried to retreat, but the ship gave them no quarter. Its weapons tore through their strongest shields, its targeting flawless, merciless. Within minutes, what had been the largest armada ever assembled against Earth was reduced to wreckage drifting silently in orbit. For the first time in decades, humanity was not on the defensive. For the first time in living memory, the enemy fled. When the last Dominion ship vanished into faster-than-light escape, silence fell across the battlefield. The mysterious warship turned, drifting slowly toward Earth's battered defenders. Every human vessel raised shields instinctively, though they knew resistance would be meaningless. The ship halted, casting its immense shadow across the fleet. Then a transmission came through, directly to Admiral Lyra Vance. "Admiral of Earth's fleet," the voice said. "You stand at the edge of extinction. But your fire endures. We were built to protect that fire. And now we awaken." Lyra swallowed hard. "Your Aegis?" "Yes," the voice replied. "We are the legacy. The weapon your ancestors built, when they foresaw the darkness that would come. We were hidden, left to slumber until humanity's need was greatest. That time is now." Lyra felt her throat tighten. The myths were true. Humanity's ancestors had prepared for this moment, leaving behind a guardian hidden in the far reaches of space. A weapon of last resort. "You saved us," she said quietly. "But why now?" The voice was steady, almost sorrowful. "Because survival is not victory. Humanity must rise again, or fall forever. We will fight beside you. But the war is not yet won." The channel cut. The massive ship began to move, slipping into formation with Earth's remaining fleet. Its presence was like a shield, a promise carved from the bones of ancient wars. On Earth, billions who had prepared to die now cheered. Across the fleet, weary soldiers lifted their heads, hope rekindling in their eyes. Humanity had been saved, not by chance but by its own legacy. Admiral Lyra stared at the ship on her display, her voice barely a whisper. The Aegis has awakened. And with it, humanity's future had been rewritten. The war had hollowed humanity. Food convoys no longer reached the colonies. Starports lay in ruin. Families that had once dreamed of a bright galactic future now crouched in shelters, praying the next bombardment would miss their sector. The Dominion's war machine was relentless, stripping humanity of hope piece by piece. The great cities of Mars had already fallen. The moons of Jupiter were nothing but scorched rocks. The defense fleets, those proud symbols of Terran defiance, were now little more than rusting hulks orbiting Earth, patched together with scavenged metal and desperate engineering. When the Dominion transmitted their message, few were surprised. "Surrender," the alien voice boomed across every human channel. "Submit to the will of the Dominion. Refuse, and your world will be ashes before the next sun rises." On the battered flagship Resolute Dawn, High Commander Elias Marr stared at the transmission with hollow eyes. His officers avoided his gaze as though looking directly at him might break whatever fragile thread kept their spirits intact. "We can't win," whispered one officer. Even if we throw everything we have, we won't last an hour. Elias knew it was true. The Dominion had brought nearly their entire war fleet for this final strike. Hundreds of ships gleamed in formation, a wall of firepower too vast for humanity's broken defenders. It was not a battle. It was an execution. And yet, surrender was unthinkable. Elias closed his eyes. Humanity had been fighting for centuries, not just for survival but for the right to exist in a galaxy that despised them. Every race had underestimated humans. Every empire had mocked their ambition. The Dominion had simply been the one strong enough to nearly finish the job. If they surrendered now, humanity would become slaves. Extinguished as surely as if they had burned. So Elias made his decision. "Signal the fleet," he said softly. "Prepare for a final stand. If this is the end of humanity, let it be written in fire." The officers nodded grimly. Orders spread. Engines roared. The remnants of humanity's fleet gathered before Earth, a line of fragile steel and stubborn courage. And then the void shifted. At first it was only a shimmer, like heat mirage in the vacuum of space. Then it grew, a shadow stretching across the stars. From that shadow something emerged. A ship. It did not glide into the battlefield, it loomed. Vast, dark, angular, and utterly alien in design. Its hull was jagged as though forged from the bones of dead worlds. Strange lights pulsed beneath its surface, alive with unnatural rhythms. It bore no markings, no insignia. And it had not warped in. It had decloaked. The Dominion faltered. Their lines wavered. Across their comms, unease rippled like static. On the Resolute Dawn, the crew stared in shock. "What is that?" Elias whispered. No human archive held its schematics. No ally had ever fielded such a ship. And yet, it moved with deliberate intent. It drifted toward the Dominion fleet, ignoring Earth, ignoring humanity entirely. The Dominion reacted swiftly, opening fire. Beams of plasma, kinetic rail slugs, and torpedoes flooded the void toward the intruder. The unknown ship did not dodge. Its surface rippled, absorbing the barrage like rain against an ocean. Then, with terrifying precision, it struck back. One single lance of energy erupted from its core, silent, blinding, merciless. Entire Dominion battle lines disintegrated. Ships that had annihilated human worlds vanished in an instant, reduced to drifting shards. Silence followed. Elias gripped the railing, his mind reeling. "It's fighting them." The Dominion regrouped, desperate. More volleys hammered into the vessel, but nothing broke through. Each counterstrike from the unknown ship carved swaths through their armada. Within minutes, fleets that had taken centuries to build were burning wreckage. The invincible Dominion was retreating. Humanity had been saved, not by its own hand but by something far more powerful. The unknown vessel turned then, drifting slowly toward Earth. Its shadow fell over the Resolute Dawn and the ragged defenders. Every alarm on the flagship screamed. Weapons crews scrambled, though they knew resistance would be pointless. The ship was a god of war and gods did not ask permission. And then the transmission came. The voice was deep, resonant. "Not Dominion. Not alien. Human. People of Earth," it said. "Your survival is mine to give." A chill ran through the bridge. Elias forced his voice steady. "Who are you?" There was silence. Then the voice returned. "An old agreement. An old promise. Long before your wars, long before your rise, a bargain was struck. To guard humanity when the night grew darkest. That time is now." The commander's chest tightened. "Why reveal yourself now? Where have you been while we bled?" "Watching," the voice answered. "Waiting. You were not ready. Now, you stand on the edge of extinction. Only with my hand can you endure." The crew exchanged nervous glances. The unknown ship had saved them, but the words carried weight heavier than victory. Elias narrowed his eyes. "And what do you want in return?" The voice did not hesitate. "Everything." The word hung like a blade over their throats. "What do you mean?" Elias demanded. "Your survival has a cost," the voice said. "Your loyalty. Your obedience. Humanity will endure, but you will endure under my will. Refuse and I vanish. The Dominion will return. And your species will be ash." The bridge fell into silence. The unknown ship had offered salvation, but not freely. It was no guardian, no savior. It was something else. Something that had hidden for centuries, waiting for humanity to reach this moment of desperation. A bargain in the dark. Elias looked at the view screen. The Dominion wreckage still smoldered in orbit. Humanity had been seconds from annihilation. And now their survival balanced on one decision. He thought of Earth below, the billions hiding in bunkers praying for salvation. He thought of the colonies already lost, of the children buried beneath alien fire. He knew what he had to do. His voice was low, steady, filled with the weight of his choice. We accept. The transmission ended. The unknown ship drifted silently for a moment, its lights pulsing like a heartbeat. Then it recloaked, vanishing back into the void. But its message lingered. Humanity had survived the Dominion's wrath. But their fate was no longer their own. They had traded annihilation for servitude, to a power they did not understand, to a ship whose allegiance was darker than any enemy. And so history would record the day. The day humanity was saved not by courage nor unity, but by a bargain in the dark.